It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the OKC Thunder did not start this game out well. Things were looking really bumpy there. Things were looking bumpy for Shai. Things were looking bumpy for the OKC Thunder. Going down 3-1, unless you have LeBron on your team, is pretty much a death sentence in the NBA. And I got to tell you, I walked into this game very confident that OKC was going to tie this series up 2-2. But to start the fourth quarter down 7, I was right there with you, man. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to act like I had this all figured out. I was recalculating everything I thought about basketball. And right now, I am sitting here as the OKC Thunder, winners of game 4, won by 7. And I feel like I am once again recalculating everything I know about basketball because I didn't think that it was possible in today's modern NBA to go 3 for 17 and win a playoff game. I didn't think that was possible. Did you think that was possible? Did you think it was possible that another team, right, that the opposing team could outscore you by 24 points from 3 and you don't get a single assist from your MVP and your best player and you still win that game? It comes back to one thing, man. It comes back to force. I believe that for the most part of the season, OKC has played with a tremendous amount of force. Their ball pressure frustrates you. It rushes you up. It throws you off rhythm. They dictate the game, right? And I feel like for a lot of this series so far, I've been somewhat surprised by how little force has been exerted, right? And we saw a lot of force in game 2. OKC obviously losing game 1 down the stretch, come out very hungry, very desperate in game 2. This is a team that hasn't lost back-to-back games in almost 3 months now. So I understand that there's a little bit of desperation, but you're still down huge. You're down 7. And it feels like, honestly, if you're watching this game, it feels like you should be down like 30, right? With the way you're shooting the ball, with the way you're processing the court, with the way your offense is functioning, and how easy the other team has it, right? Typically, when teams go up against OKC, it's really tough, man. Everything's delayed. Their pressure just breaks you down. Their physicality makes you rush shots. You're missing tip shots, easy shots. You're having to work for everything. And I feel like for much of tonight, it felt like Indiana just got these great shots. And it's everybody, right? It's Pascal Siakam, who was really good tonight. Like overall, like no complaints about Pascal Siakam. Like really, to start the game, he really had it going. He started them out right on the right foot, really participated defensively. Aaron Nesmith didn't have a great shooting game. Miles Turner didn't have a great shooting game, but man, like Andrew Nembhard, his defense, Tyrese Halliburton, off the bench, Obi Toppin might have been the hero of the game, really swung that game open in that third quarter. Very, very important. TJ McConnell, another huge game off the bench. Not quite as huge as the last game where he had 10, 5, and 5, but 8 and 2 off the bench in 18 minutes is not bad. I think they could have used a lot more from Ben Mathurin, but man, Ben Shepherd, his defense, his pressure, and I just think, like, if I'm being honest, this did not look good in the third quarter. And then something happened, you started to feel it. You started to feel it. And it was like right around the beginning of that fourth quarter, suddenly there's offensive rebounds available. And OKC is finally getting them. It's not just, the other side, Obi Toppin is getting these uncontested offensive rebounds and no one's boxing them out. Now it's OKC going. They go with the double big lineup. They crash the glass. They were crashing the glass before they went with the offensive rebound. Before they went with the double big lineup, they were crashing the glass. This team just played with a lot of force, right? They're getting strips in the open court. J-Dub is going. Everything's going well, right? You're still not getting quite like the right offensive process, but in the end, is my best player better than your best player? And down the stretch, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the best player on the planet, man. 15 fucking points down the stretch for Shai. Finishes with 35. Gets to the line. Gets this game going. Chris Wilder, shout outs, said, I think somewhere in the third quarter, if the series ends right now, Pascal Siakam is MVP. And I remember thinking to myself, that's a Canadian saying that. So I understand Pascal, being a Raptor, ex-Raptor, gets a lot of allegiance from Canadian fans. But don't forget, man, The best Canadian player of all time is 26 years old and he's playing in these finals. And if you are from Canada or you're Canadian or you have an uncle who's Canadian, I think you should be rooting for this dude. I really do. I really do. Okay. Because SGA did not have a great game. I'm not going to lie to you. 35 points may deceive you if you're a box score watcher, if you didn't watch this game, or if you were playing, cards on your phone like Stephen A. Smith. Maybe you weren't really watching this. You were just kind of just checking out the score and seeing if it got interesting at some point. Man, it was a very interesting game. It was a very interesting game. This was not a great Shai Gilgeous-Alexander game, but this was a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander masterclass of a fourth quarter, wasn't it? Wasn't it? It was amazing, right? Couldn't do anything with him, right? I mean, there was some stuff in the first quarter where it's just like, oh, this looks very easy for Shai, and then it just dried up real fast, right? They're denying him the ball. They're pressuring him. They're beating the shit out of him off the ball. This game was very chippy. Few technicals. I'm not going to lie to you. A couple things that bother me about this game. I'll say two things. By the way, shout outs to the chat. To the 100 plus of you who are in here. I want to give you guys two very awesome channel updates before I continue on with this game analysis. Give me one sec. If you have a beer, cheers to you. Kingsley giving us some knowledge here. Pat McAfee came on the Jumbotron before the fourth quarter started and went on a rant about the spread being 6.5 and said the sports books don't know what they're doing. Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. Nice Mickey glass. Yo, facts. If you're not drinking beer from your year 2000, hold on, let me see this. Year 2000? Can y'all see that? This is a collector's item. It's not really a collector's item. It was a giveaway from McDonald's, and I just remember that because my mom got it for me, and my mom passed away, so I always kept this glass. I threw away everything, but I was like, nah, this glass is solid. The Mickey Mouse glass as a beer glass, dope glass. I will say this though. So channel updates, 2 major channel updates. I'm gonna let y'all know something cool. So why am I blurry? Hold on. That's not beer goggles. That's me just being blurry. So 2 major channel updates. Channel update number 1. There are 2 awesome episodes dropping next week on the neuroscience of sports. I linked up with my friend, Dr. Catherine McIntosh again. We had an amazing podcast yesterday. We talked about sleep, the importance of sleep, how to get sleep for athletes. And I think that if you're someone who struggles with sleep, this is a podcast that is really going to be insightful for you. And then we also jumped into how to evaluate prospects mentally. What is the mental makeup of a successful prospect? And yeah, while I was asking those questions, I was really thinking about Shai, but I was also thinking about Scotty Barnes. I was also thinking about Carter Bryant. I was thinking about a lot of my favorite prospects. And yes, it is going to be a dope episode. So those 2 episodes are great. Also, Nolan saying, saw clips from that on your story. Looks dope and informative. It is going to be great. It's going to be split up into 2 episodes. The other thing, and this is probably going to be very interesting to you guys as well. I hope a lot of people tune into this one. I got this motivation today that I am going to make my dream episode happen. So I started reaching out this morning to all of my favorite draft analysts on Twitter. I'm talking everybody. People that you guaranteed you guys follow, you've been watching their stuff. And I started reaching out to them one by one. And I said, are you guys interested in coming on to PENSARE Basketball tomorrow and recording a show? We're not going to do it live because a lot of moving parts, where we all, like maybe 6, 7, 8 of us, go through and literally mock out the entire draft. And the way the format works, which is very cool, is we're each assigned 4 teams, 3, 4, or 5 teams, depending on who it is. And we're each assigned a team that we're going to be an assistant general manager for. So let's just say number 1, Dallas. Let's say I'm the general manager of Dallas and Erson is my assistant general manager. We start the show out with Erson and Rob. You're on the clock. We give them 5 minutes. Any trades that other teams want to make to us, they can call us, etc. It's going to be very, very cool. It's going to be very cool. We'll see the whole thing play out. No Ceilings did this very similar thing with Tyler and Tyler, but it was 2 of them. And I thought, what would be cooler than doing it with completely distinct people operating from completely distinct viewpoints. Maybe some of us have Carter Bryant 6th on our board. Some of us have him 14th on our board. He might fall to 10 or 9, and someone might be like calling up. So I'm very excited about that episode. I can't wait to record it. I'm so thankful in advance to everybody who comes on. We've roped in some incredible people to do it. So I'm going to do that. Also, I will tell you this. If Carter Bryant is the Raptors pick, I got a very, very special episode interview lined up for right after the draft, like literally 2-3 days after the draft. I'm going to have someone very awesome come on and give us, and it's already promised. I told him, I'm like, straight up, if Carter gets drafted, you got to come on and do an interview with us. And he said, bet. So y'all going to have, like, I'm going to say this selfishly. Obviously, Carter's my favorite prospect in this draft. Like, I'm just going to say this beyond Cooper and, beyond the top 3, he's my favorite prospect. But I will say selfishly, it would be very, very good for this channel if Carter Bryant is a Raptor, because I've done a lot of digging and made a lot of connections within that camp. So that would be good. So those are the 2 updates. I have no idea when the draft episode will inevitably, drop. I want to do a little bit of video graphic work and editing work on that, but it will probably be sometime around mid next week, Tuesday. Maybe we drop the neuroscience video on Monday, and then we drop the draft video Tuesday, drop the second neuroscience video on Wednesday, something like that. So it's going to be really, really banging week for content. And obviously, as we lead up to the draft and we lead up to the culmination of the NBA Finals, it's going to be a very, very cool time. So if you are not locked in to PENSARE Basketball and you're not subbed up, you should sub up. It's totally free, and you should absolutely do it. Key M saying, did you see Noah's measurements? I did. Noah Senge and Ben Saraf measured extremely well, better than I thought they would. Okay, back to this game. Let's take a real quick look at the box score here. Chet Holmgren, 14 points, 15 rebounds. That was huge. And he was hurt. Not going to lie, man. Jalen Williams. I have never seen a dude get up faster after the drops that he took today. I've never seen it. Guys, milk it. They sit on the ground. They pray to God. They cry. Nope, not this guy. He takes one of the hardest falls I think I could have ever imagined. It's like, if he had laid down, I might be wondering, is his career about to end? That's how hard that fall was when he contested that shot on Ben Mathurin. And he just gets up. Like spring chick, he just gets up. And you know what? I'm going to say this. When you lay on the ground, that might be time for you to breathe, but that's also building confidence for the other team. Now, I said something in my last live, and I also said it on PC, and I'm not going to lie. I got pretty roasted for it. My assertion was in the last game, in game 3, that I felt like OKC did not play hard. And this is not a team that I have ever known to not play hard. So I thought about it a lot before I said what I said. And I said, listen, between game 3 and game 4, it's very rare. It's a very rare occurrence for this NBA Finals, but there's only one day between for rest. So I believe that OKC is going to wear down Indiana as these 2 games progress. Like you can look at, I don't know how you want to break down a series. You can look at it all as a lump sum of 7 games, or you can look at game by game. I prefer to look at it as 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, or 2, 2, 3. That's how I prefer to look at every single finals. If I'm a coach, I'm coaching the first 2, then I'm coaching the next 2, then I'm coaching the final 3. Obviously, you coach a game at a time, but there is carryover from one game to the other. Obviously, if you lose in heartbreaking fashion, there may be some residual effects of that. If you win in amazing fashion, there may be momentum that builds from that. Momentum carries on a 2-day stretch. I'll also tell you what else carries over a 2-day stretch: fatigue. I believe that Indiana played about as hard as humanly possible for the first 7 quarters of the second part of this series, which is game 3 and game 4. They pick up high. They're fighting. It's exhausting. The Indiana Pacers have impressed me so much during this series. I am so amazed by their level of compete and their execution and their commitment and their discipline and their talent, frankly. It's really amazing because I picked this team to lose in the first round. I picked them to lose in the second round. I picked them to lose in the third round. And I picked them to lose in this round. And had they won this game, I probably still would have picked them to lose in this round. I'm sticking to my guns. I don't see a championship team here. But why don't I see a championship team here? Well, part of it could be an anchoring bias. It could be because I don't think Tyrese Halliburton's a good defender. It could be because I don't think Obi Toppin and Ben Mathurin are good defenders. It could be because I don't think Pascal Siakam is all that great defensively. But all of those things have not been true in this series. There's a lot of reasons why that could not be true. One, there's a lot of physicality in this series. Let's just be honest. The refs are letting these players get away with murder off the ball. And when there's more physicality, less talented defenders are going to be able to shine. I think the OKC Thunder have incredible defenders. Even if you were to call the game tight, I think they would be okay defensively. If you called this game super tight, I think Indiana would be sunk defensively. So that's kind of my view on it. Number two, I also think that despite the fact that traditionally those players are not good defenders, they're also good athletes. Ben's a good athlete. Siakam's a good athlete. Obi's a good athlete. They can move their feet from side to side. They can still block a shot every now and again. They can still stretch their arms out and get a steal. They're physically good athletes. It's not like we're talking about a 5'10" guy with short arms. No, we're talking about physically imposing athletes who should be better defensively. And frankly, the fact that they're not better defensively for most of the part of the season is a critique of them, but they've been good in this series. I think part of the reason they've been good in this series is because OKC's offense has been very predictable in this series. They have not put pressure so many times in this game where there's an opportunity for Shai to attack the paint on 2-on-1 or even 2-on-2 transition, and he'll pull it out and wait for the half court setting. And then he'll force a tough two going off of too much dribbling, too little process, not great shots generated out of those isolations very often. Not denying that Shai is the best player on the court. He is by far the best player on the court. The gap between Shai and Hallie is enormous in terms of pure talent. But in terms of pure process, Hallie's process has been much better throughout these 4 games, even though the series is tied 2-2, even though we're going back to OKC, even though all the betting odds that were very, very much in favor of OKC maybe losing this series to start the fourth quarter have now swung decidedly in favor of OKC to win this series. And that's just how crucially important this game was. This game was the championship game in a lot of ways. I think as much as I would have picked OKC to win this series, even if they lost this game, it would be a very difficult thing to sell. It's also very interesting that, they did make a lineup change today. They went with their double big lineup. And I thought that was interesting because that's the lineup that brought them to this point. And it is ironically that lineup down the stretch that really did help them as well, right? Chet was plus 14 tonight, right? But Isaiah Hartenstein was -7. It's interesting that with Shai on the bench, they actually did really well. There was a portion of the game in the second quarter where they were cooking without Shai, really doing well. J-Dub was awesome. I think he deserves a lot of flowers for what he did today because he has not had a great series so far. In terms of process, he's building up. He's doing better. It's not quite James Harden in 2012. I'll say that. But it was very interesting that the minute Shai came on the court, that lead sort of slowly evaporated going into halftime. And I wondered why. And it was completely the defense. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not just talking about getting cooked one-on-one on the blow-by by TJ McConnell. I'm not talking about game 3 getting cooked on the blow-by by Pascal Siakam. I'm not just talking about his insane blow-by rate, whatever the hell that stat means. He hasn't been great. It's not just the on-ball stuff. That's the stuff you probably notice a lot. It's not the on-ball stuff. It's the off-ball stuff. It's the lazy transition defense. It's the lazy closeouts. It is the insanely late rotations. It is the inability at times to box out a bigger player or the inability to force yourself to push out a bigger player and fight for that position and just have Obi Toppin or Pascal Siakam go right over you. The OKC Thunder defense does not work if one player does not buy in. Their whole the reason they're so great defensively is there's no weak gaps to push. And when you have Isaiah Joe on the court for the 5 minutes that he's on the court, I he won his minutes by +2, but I don't think that that was great. But Shea is the guy that they have gone after the most. I think part of that is because he is the best offensive player on the other side. You want to make him work. But also part of that is because among typically Kaysen Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, he is the worst point of attack defender. Now, OKC can do everything to hide Shea, and they have. They've done a lot to try and protect him so that he doesn't pick up silly fouls, so that he doesn't overexert himself, and so he has his legs for the fourth quarter. But you can do all of that. But if you don't even participate in the defense, if you're getting cooked like Luka, you're just rotating late, cannot win. Cannot win. Because this OKC defense is what fuels that offense. It's what fuels transition. It's what gets the juices going, right? And in the fourth quarter, I think Shea was much better defensively. Got that block on Halliburton. It was much better. It was much better process. And I think it was much better effort. Now, I remind you, and I don't know if I completely completed this take, but I want to say it. I went on the panel, and I also said this in the last episode, that I felt like, and I said that something felt wrong about OKC in game 3. They felt tired. They felt tired pre-game. They were tired during the interviews. And I just felt like, even though Shea played 42 minutes in the last game, that I just didn't feel like there was a lot of like exertion. There wasn't that like high level of playoff intensity. And again, I'll say this OKC team is very good. They are very good. They're very talented. They're very deep. They have the capability of beating you 150 different ways from most teams. The way this Indiana team makes you work, though, like, you can't make any mistakes. You just can't. You have to have your legs. You have to punish. You have to rotate. You have to actually just be locked in. There can be no mistakes, because one missed rotation and boom, it's an Obi Toppin 3. One, falling out of bounds, trying to bait a call, and boom, it's 5-on-4 transition the other way. They put so much pressure on you to be perfect defensively, and I think that's why no team has really been able to solve this team. And the reason that I picked OKC in 3 coming into the series is because I genuinely felt that there was no one player consistently on offense that could force a double team for Indiana. And I felt that equation would be too difficult for Indiana to solve, because their whole point is that they exploit your weaknesses. They exploit your gaps. They exploit your mistakes. And I just felt, hey, OKC doesn't make mistakes defensively. There's nothing to exploit. You're not going to get your transition buckets. You're not going to get your blow-bys. You're not going to get your backdoor cuts. And they have gotten those cuts. And as much as you want to say about, Rob, you were wrong. You picked this OKC team to sweep, and they're not sweeping, and they were almost going to lose, and they were almost going to be down 3-1. I don't think that I'm necessarily like, I'll own it. Like I said it on the panel. If OKC ends up blowing this, I will issue a public apology to Indiana and anybody who's willing to listen. I'm sorry. I completely overrated this OKC team. But it's hard for me to imagine that I did, like I'm trying to like work through this process in my own head of like what has gone wrong with this OKC team, that this is even a series right now, because this shouldn't have been a series. They shouldn't have lost that game 1. I really don't believe that they should have lost this game 1. It's been poor shooting. It's been Kaysen Wallace has not been good, man. Anyone who follows this channel knows Kaysen's my guy. Like, I love Kaysen Wallace. He is a second-year player, and he has not been good in this series, man. He has been actually, I'm sugarcoating it mildly. He's been terrible. He's not making shots. He's forcing a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of bad process. He's not a real point guard, so it's more of an off-ball wing, but more of an undersized off-ball wing. I think Kaysen is going to be a really, really good player at some point, but I walked in this series thinking he was going to out-impact Andrew Nembhard, and he has not even come close to that. But I think what's really gone wrong is the way this OKC Thunder team defends. They typically are also leaving weaknesses. When you see this team and they're swarming and it feels like you're playing 7-on-5, it's usually because they're ignoring a corner shooter and they're willing to live with that. This is a team that gives up historic numbers of corner 3-point shots because they pack the paint, they protect the paint, They rotate relentlessly. They gamble like a lot. And when you gamble, you make mistakes. When you gamble against really good playmaking, which obviously between Nemhard and Pascal and Halliburton, there's a lot of great playmaking, a lot of great decision makers. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have slip ups. You're gonna have like gaps that are gonna open for like a second. And most teams aren't good enough to exploit a gap that only opens up for a second because they're too busy prodding the ball or because they don't have great playmakers. But Indiana has great playmakers across the board between Nemhard, as I said, between Nemhard and Siakam, but also like as I said, Ben Mathurin. Sorry, not Ben Mathurin, Andrew Nemhard, Halliburton, Siakam, but also TJ McConnell. It's a really good playmaker off the bench. These people do not let you off the hook. When you miss a rotation, they will find the cutter, right? So for OKC to be locked in perfect is one thing. To be locked in and perfect at this speed is a completely different situation, right? You haven't played an offense like this. And that's not going to change the equation of talent. It's going to change the equation of coaching. Because win, lose, or draw, no matter what happens in this series, at no point do I ever want to hear, well, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton are top 10 players. No, they are not top 10 players. I heard Jason Timpf, who's a very respectable basketball mind, saying maybe Halliburton could be a top 5 player. Shut up with that. No, he's not a top 5 player. No, he's not. Top 5 players do not get blocked on jump shots by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That doesn't happen to them. Off the dribble, that doesn't happen. Okay. No, he's not a top 5 player. No, they're not top 10 players. This is just a really tricky offense to solve. They put a tremendous amount of pressure on you. They're really disciplined. They are very skilled. They play 5 out, and there's nobody you can ignore. You can't ignore Thomas Bryant, who I don't even think played tonight. Did he play tonight? He did not play tonight. You can't ignore Obi Toppin. You can't ignore Siakam. You can't ignore Turner. There's not a single player that you can ignore. I used to think in the regular season that you could ignore Andrew Nemhard. Nope, not in the playoffs. He hits everything in the playoffs. The guy's shooting damn near 50% from 3 in the playoffs. They just space the floor and they punish you relentlessly for every corner that you leave open to pack the paint, to double up. I think that in the fourth quarter, that OKC defense, as much as people are going to say this was the Shai heroics game, this was just Shai being like going God mode. Yeah, that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. Shai carried. Shai was amazing. That's only a small part of it, though. The bigger part of it is the defense. It's the force they played with defensively. It is Chet Holmgren at the rim. It is Chet just battling, for those 15 boards. It's the force that they played with. It is the discipline. It's, fighting over screens. It's Lou Dort and Alex Caruso. Man, this team is so impressive, and it's young. It's a young team, man. It's a young team. The oldest player who's playing for them is Alex Caruso, and he's still young, in my opinion. In terms of NBA years, he hasn't had a lot of prime experience in the NBA. You know what I mean? It's not like when you think about a guy who's 30, think about how many minutes Kevin Garnett had logged by the time he was 30, or LeBron James, or Tracy McGrady, or even someone like Shaquille O'Neal. Think about that as experience. How many deep playoff runs have you had as a starter level? Alex Caruso has not had a ton of deep runs as a starter level player. This is still a young, late blooming player who didn't really blossom and arrive on the NBA scene until he was like 23, 24. So while he may be 30, he's still young per my estimation. And this is also the youngest team in the NBA. And sometimes they show it. Sometimes they show their youth and inexperience. Sometimes they have these mental blunders. I would be remiss if I talked about this entire episode without talking about Ben Mathurin, man. Now, far be it for me to fry a guy who basically won them game 3. I mean, really, it's between him and TJ McConnell. If they're half of what they are, you don't win game 3 at all. But down the stretch of this game, with all the heroics and all the shot making and all the momentum being at home, for you to commit 2 away from the play inbounds fouls, that is just inexcusable bullshit. You put him at the line, and just missing those free throws, I don't know. It's such a weird thing how much can change in 2 days. Ben Mathurin went from, could he be a max guy on his next deal? Is this guy going to be an all-star in 3 years? This is the next iteration of Pacers basketball. This is the future of the league. It really was crazy what people were saying about him. And I think, he well deserved. He played a great game. I've never been a huge fan of Ben Mathurin, but he played a huge game. Credit where credit is due. In this game, holy shit. The narrative just went right back to this guy has some of the lowest basketball IQ in the history of the NBA, and it's bad. And to miss 3 free throws down the stretch, to that's just momentum, man. Now, I've always believed, whether I was playing, if I ever coach, when I'm watching the game, that 2 points are not 2 points. The 2 points that you miss down the stretch in a close game at the line, brick, that is akin to adding like 3 to 4 points on the other team's like docket. It kills your crowd, it kills your team, it kills morale, it fuels the other team, it infuses them with belief. And I do believe that belief, that's a clunky sentence, I believe that belief. I think belief has a huge part to play in sports. Not to totally teaser this, but in my conversation with Catherine, I asked her 3 questions that she would ask. We played out a simulation, and I said, what 3 questions would you ask of a draft prospect? If I hired you as a representative of the Toronto Raptors and I'm the draft prospect, what 3 questions are you asking me? And she asked me 3 very fascinating questions. One of them was about this incredible memory, this time where I was very successful. One of them was a time about one of my big failures. And then the other one was a random, how many basketballs are in the United States type of question that, Google and Amazon are famous for asking. And she sort of measured my response to those questions, but it wasn't really about what I said. It was just about what went into what I said. And when I think about, how much the mind plays a factor into success and failure at this level, that's really what it comes down to, man. That's really what it comes down to. It takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of grit, if you will. It takes a lot of belief to even get to this point that these two teams are at. But when you're down big going into the fourth quarter, when you're down 7 and you can't hit a single shot, those 2 free throws that the other team misses, that's jet fuel. That's jet fuel in your back, right? Because that's the belief. And I think that I'll take the Indiana Pacers. I think actions speak louder than the words. I believe that this team thinks they can win this series. Everything we've heard from anyone who's been around this team is they talk about it all the time. They think they belong here. They think they can win this series. They think they're good enough to be NBA champions. Cool. If I'm OKC, I need them to question that. I need them to quit. Caitlin Cooper has often compared this OKC team to a boa constrictor. I think they're like boa constrictors. I really do. And this whole team just sort of squeezes whatever hope you have out of you, right? I really do. Dust Taker said they don't call Scott Foster the extender for nothing. Well, correlation, my friend, is not causation. And I will tell you that Scott Foster and these referees were on the other end of some egregious no calls, which favored Indiana in this game many times. Also, a big shout out to Tyrese Halliburton's girlfriend. I don't remember the young lady's name, but she is annoying as hell, bro. Really annoying. In the first half, she's screaming at the referees, they're cheating. They're cheating. I don't know what she actually sounds like, but that's what she sounds like to me, bro. They all sound like that to me. What the fuck, bro? She's like, up it. I mean, support your man. I get it. Whatever. I just find her very annoying. I've seen some, interviews with her and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Might be a personal. It might be a personal bias. Can't stand her. Find her very annoying. Nevertheless, evening this series up on the road, it's all back to even. Now it's best of 3. Series tied 0-0. But is it really tied 0-0? OKC is very good at home. Their role players are much better at home. Indiana's role players are much worse on the road. I have said many times, if this series actually goes to 7, I think the Indiana Pacers probably take it. Why do I feel that way? Well, there was a part of me that just felt that Tyrese Halliburton was the smartest player in this series. And I felt that the longer the series went on, the more he would figure it out. He obviously has a penchant for black magic. The black magic did not happen on Friday the 13th. I found that somewhat ironic. But I just felt that a game 7 typically favors the more experienced team, and Indiana is the more experienced team. But now I'm also thinking, what about the inexperienced team? The team that is really seeing this for the first time. Everybody's seeing this for the first time, apart from Alex Caruso, who has been awesome in every single game. Is this team starting to believe? Is this team maybe all that humility is actually real? That they don't actually feel like they're champions because they won 67, 68 games. They don't actually feel like they're the best team in the world because they won 68 games. Are they starting to feel that? Are they starting to feel like, holy shit, 2 more games? That's it? We got to win 2 more. My predictions have been off when it comes to Indiana. My predictions have been very right when it comes to OKC. Very right. I've said for 5.5 months that this team was going to win a championship, that they were finals bound, that I wouldn't pick anyone against them. I have said, I said also, ironically, I did not pick anyone else coming out of the East than the Boston Celtics, but I said the Boston Celtics were vulnerable because the ownership change and things. I've been right about a lot of stuff, but I can tell you one thing that I've had an absolutely disastrous track record on, and that is the Indiana Pacers. I've been wrong about this team every step of the way. I thought they were cooked in January. I thought they were first round fodder. As I said, I picked them to lose in every single round. So take this with a grain of salt. They probably could come out and win game 5, but I give game 5 to OKC. And then game 6, I give to OKC as well. That is my prediction right now. As it stands right now, I believe that best for best, and again, that's what the series is going to come down to sometimes, right? It's best for best. I'm playing at my best. You're playing at your best. My adjustments versus your adjustments, my star versus your star, my defense versus your defense, my speed and athleticism versus your speed and athleticism, my basketball IQ and athleticism and everything against yours. Best for best. I'm firing at 100. You're firing at 100. Who wins that minute? OKC. Every time. Every time. There's that old quote with Russell Westbrook, ironically, at the time was a member of the OKC Thunder. And he was asked, did they win this game or did you lose this game? And Russ said, what? What? He was very confused by that question. I think that's a very smart question to ask sometimes. I understand that every single game in NBA history has had a winner and a loser, but sometimes they win, sometimes you lose. I feel in game 1, the OKC Thunder lost that game. I feel they won game 2. I feel that Indiana rightfully and legitimately won game 3. And I believe that OKC legitimately won game 4. I don't believe that Indiana lost this. I don't think this was something like, oh my God, Ben Mathurin could have made all the difference. No, you don't commit those fouls. You lose by 3 instead of losing by 7. It's not, this was not going to change the outcome. This is not going to change the outcome. I don't think so. They didn't just tighten up. Tyrese was really good down the stretch. Siakam sort of disappeared a little bit, but overall, I don't think that Indiana choked this game away. I'm sure a lot of fans felt that way. I'm sure a lot of fans are probably like, did we just piss away our first championship? Oh my God, here it goes again. I'm sure they'll come out with a lot of force in game 5 as well. But again, my best versus your best, who's a better team? OKC is the better team. Every quarter, they play with force, they win. Every quarter, they relax, they lose. So if I'm OKC, I'm looking at this. I'm on the plane ride right now. I'm going back home. I'm feeling good, but I'm not feeling that good because I know this devil magic team on the other side can pull out a miracle. I now respect my opponent, which is very crucial. Greg Popovich always talked about appropriate fear. Don't be afraid, but you got to have an appropriate amount of fear for your opponent. It's not, don't tighten up. Don't be shook, but have an appropriate level of respect for your opponent. I believe that this OKC Thunder team now respects this Indiana team. I believe that somewhere in the third quarter, they looked up that scoreboard, saw OKC down 5, down 6, down 7, down 8, and really their season flashed before their eyes. What did Jokic say? A wounded animal or cornered animal is a very dangerous animal. This series is tied. Home court is back with OKC. And yet, because of how this game went, this is not a confidence building game for OKC. This is a close call. This is an alert. This is a red alert. This is a red alarm. The alarm bells just went off for OKC. If we don't play the way we play in the fourth quarter every single minute for the rest of this series, this could be over. This could be curtains. They're seeing the championship now. You know, I'm speaking straight from a psychological perspective. 8 quarters, fellas. 8 quarters. I'm on the plane and I'm letting everybody know. If I'm Chet Holmgren or I'm Isaiah Hartenstein or Alex Caruso, I'm like, yo, 8 quarters. 8 quarters to 1 championship. Can we dial it in for 8 quarters? Can we play with force and can we impose our will on the game? This team does not have anyone talented enough to break us down if we stay together. No, they do not. I don't care what you think about Tyrese Halliburton's shot making and Pascal Siakam's post scoring and Andrew Nembhard's late game heroics. No. If we stick to what got us here, there's no contest. They're losing game 5 and they're losing game 6. But if we break apart and we have one player who's consistently late and consistently not rotating and not being physical and not boxing out, and we're being lazy on our closeouts, we are fully going to lose this game in 6. And I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I don't know if OKC understood how good this team was that they were facing. I certainly did not understand how good this Indiana team was. But now that we know, and now that we have seen it in 2 losses, 2 heartbreaking losses, one especially heartbreaking, one more humiliating loss. Now that we've seen that, now we have our grasp. We've seen their cards. We have our adjustments. Obviously, Mark Daigneault has been thoroughly outcoached in this series. I expect that will continue to be the case, but the talent gap is very much higher for OKC. I think OKC is just a better team with a better player. And again, role players like Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, Kenrich Williams, expect them to play much better at home. Expect them to play much better at home. This is a close call, right? Expect that to happen, right? So I think that, you know, again, this is not the way it was scripted, right? It was never the way this was scripted. You do not script a game where you're going to have, like, you're never going to have a situation. Someone said, hey, Rob, what position did you play in rugby? I played scrum half. Yeah, I played scrum half in rugby. You're never going to script a game where you plan to score 3 3-pointers in an entire game and you expect to lose. It has not happened since 2011 or 2010. It's been 14 or 15 years since the team won in the finals shooting 3 threes, like making 3 or 3 threes. It hasn't happened in a really long time. So that's very weird. Take a look very quickly at the team stats. One sec.
If I tell you before the game that Shai has 0 assists for the...
That's a very important thing. Okay, so just, you know, despite some cold shooting early, 47% down the stretch, again, just fourth quarter outscored by 15. But 3 for 17 from 3. Holy shit. At one point, they were shooting legitimately 8% from 3. And I believe midway through the third quarter, Indiana was shooting 40% from 3. 40%, which is ridiculous. But now it's about winning the margins, right? Offensive rebound battle. All those offensive rebounds, those hustle stats, they finally edge in favor of OKC. The steals finally edge back in favor of OKC. right? The total turnovers, dead even. Now, neither one of these teams are necessarily turnover prone, but if you were looking at this from a odds perspective, which of these teams is more likely to have 16 turnovers? I think OKC had a lot of silly turnovers in this game, but they forced a lot of those turnovers back. And so when you look at it from the perspective of who really, really won that possession battle, you might say, well, it's probably Indiana because they shot 80 shots and OKC shot 78. But then you're not factoring in that they actually outscored them by 9 at the line and they got to the line 5 times. And weirdly enough, every point counts. They say that, 1 point is 1 point. It all counts at the end. Well, it does all count at the end because Indiana managed to miss 8 free throws in a game that they lost by 7. Now, is it realistic to expect the team to go 33 for 30? No. But let's just be honest. This was a 2-possession game with like 50 seconds to go. Okay. If you want to look at just how freakish this game was, take a look at the win probability.
If I tell you,
I'm not kidding. Fourth quarter, 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go, Indiana was up 103-99. They were 75.7% favored to win this game. In the third quarter, right to end the third quarter, they were 90% favored to win this game as they took a 10-point lead. I want to show you what I wrote, actually. This is the quote. Indiana is out thundering. What the hell? Not promoting. Get the fuck out of here. Yo, what is going on here? I said Indiana is out thundering OKC. Time for OKC to outpacer Indiana. And I meant it. And I think that was very prophetic, And yes, if you want proof, did I lose hope for a bit? Yeah, at the end of the third quarter, I was very nervous. Slick Nick says, sorry, not going to happen as much as I love OKC. Pacers feeling comfortable at home. And I said 3-point game, but I fear you might be right. Not Donald Fagan said, for me, it's as entertaining as I expected. This was an incredibly entertaining game. And this so far has been one of the best series that we've had in a very long time. This was amazing, right? And again, this is not necessarily victory lapping, but again, this is not going to be like who wins one game, who wins the second game. No, this is about first to four. And you've got to think about this from the perspective of like, okay, now going into game 5, we have 2 days off. Chet took some bumps today. J-Dub took a really hard fall today. How are those guys feeling in 2 days? Does it stiffen up tonight? Do they need treatment tomorrow? Are they going to need like a cryo chamber and an ice bath? Like, what is going to make them ready for game 5? Nobody's okay at this time of the year. Like, everybody's banged up, everybody's sore, everybody's tired. It's a war, man. It's a war. It is a war. It's like two boxers, going at each other, and they're going at each other. And it's like, yeah, you feel like the guy who delivers that first punch, that first showy punch, but it's like that guy's getting tired, man. He's throwing these these Hail Marys, and he's getting tired, and he's getting tired. And it's like that 4th, 5th, 6th round comes around, and the guy who's been taking the hits and the hits and the hits, he's just, okay, wait, it's my time now. You got to map these rounds out. It's a war of nutrition. So the term, Nolan, is it's a war of attrition. Ironically, it could also be a war of nutrition. I don't know they're nutritionists, but yes, it's a war of attrition. And yes, it is definitely a war of attrition. And I think a lot of those role players that stepped up in game 2, they're gonna have to come to play in game 5. They're not going to be able to just rely on Shai and J-Dub. J-Dub gave you a game. Look, I look at every single series like a blueprint. J-Dub going to get you a game. Chet might get you a game. Shai might get you a game. and maybe your bench is going to get you a game. That's the blueprint to success, right? Now you could argue game 2, maybe your bench already got you the game, so maybe we need the check game, right? Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about something else here for a sec. So I said something pretty crazy on Player's Choice, and I want to talk about it for a sec because I feel like I'd be remiss if I did not use my platform to defend my takes on the other platform. Hang on one sec. Now, here's what I said. "2000s," and I know that sounds crazy. Yes, I'm the person that said the best version of Kawhi to me is like better than the best version of Shaq in the 2000s. And I know that sounds crazy, and I acknowledge that.
Some of the most
What
You
I
said-
saw
you said
this
that?
dude, what I saw this dude do in the playoffs,
What year?
2019.
2015, 16, 19,
15.
20, whatever.
17.
15, that was all.
19,
17, yeah, he got hurt by
23.
Zaza. 16, they were
Yeah.
what, the second seed in
The
the
whole
West?
team year?
Sorry,
16 was
16, 17, 18.
Okay.
Sorry.
Following.
So
18.
2016,
No,
2017, 2019. Those three
19.
playoff runs to me is like
Better-
there's
Not
one.
better than
There's
Shaq.
Because of
one.
playoff runs.
No, no.
So your
There's
peak is
one.
your playoff runs.
I've
It's
always.
part of it.
I
It's part of
Most-
it.
most
The
players-
regular season, he was
most players
playing
regress in the playoffs. Most players regress a little bit in the playoffs. Okay, most players that you can go through NBA history, there's a slight decline. If you want an example of a slight decline, J-Dub. It's a slight decline in the playoffs every single year. Chad Holmgren last year, Chad Holmgren this year. Those percentages go down. Why do they go down? I'll tell you why they go down.
Better
Because
defense.
you're not playing bad teams anymore.
Yeah, better defense and better players.
You're playing.
Absolutely.
By definition of the playoffs, you're no longer playing the bottom 14 teams in the league. So naturally, and then once you get deeper and deeper into the playoffs, like when you get into game 6, game 5, game 7, you're playing the same guys over and over again.
Sure.
So they get used to your rhythm. They get used to you get schemed a lot more. So to me, playoffs, like the reason it's so interesting is because it exposes the frauds. And in those moments, I feel Kawhi has shown up bigger than anyone in NBA history except for maybe Michael Jordan. And I stand on it. Now, why do I stand on it and what do I actually mean? Here's the thing. I want to say something very honestly to this chat because some of you guys also watch PC. Please understand, I don't lie on PC. Everything I say, I mean, but I may not always mean it exactly how I say it. Does that make sense? Okay. Sometimes I feel like a player is very overrated. Sometimes I feel a player is very underrated. I will do a lot to even out that narrative. I think Shaq's a great player. I have him as a top 7 player of all time. I think he's phenomenal. I think he could have been the greatest player of all time. I don't think people see Kawhi as a top 20 peak of all time, but he absolutely is. If I show you Kawhi Leonard's stats and just like, again, it's the weirdest shit that happens, right? Shaq was a huge media personality, man. He really was. He played in a huge media market. He was a showman. He was very much, he was a first overall pick. He was box office, right? He was always grabbing the quotes, grabbing the headlines, grabbing the media. He's a media darling. He's a media darling who played in a dominant media market, and he had a lot of coverage. And a lot of people said a lot of stuff about Shaq. I don't think people criticize Shaq for all the things that he didn't do well. And there's a lot of things that he didn't do well. That dominant 2000 run that you remember, which culminated with a championship against the Lakers in which Kobe Bryant got hurt and stuff. Did y'all know that he shot 42% or 43% from the line during that entire playoff run? Do you know that Kawhi Leonard, and I don't know if you particularly prescribe to box plus minus or EPM or anything like that, if you prescribe to plus minus stats, do you know that Kawhi has had 5 playoff runs, which are better than that playoff run that Shaq had per box plus minus? And there's a reason for that. And that's because Shaq was not a great defender. He's just not a great defender. He's a good shot blocker, but he wasn't a great defender. And he got really exploited in space. Got really exploited on the pick and roll. And so part of my argument for Kawhi is not necessarily that I think Kawhi's better than Shaq or whatever. I definitely think Shaq had a much, much better career, largely because he was healthier. But I think peak for peak, when did Shaq ever win a championship with a second best player who wasn't a Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Famer, a first team All NBA type? Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant. Those are the only players that he won with as lead, second guys. He didn't ever win without a Hall of Fame head coach, right? Am I wrong? No, I'm not wrong, right? Pat Riley in 2006. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong, am I? Phil Jackson, 2000, 2001, 2002. Those are some fucking Hall of Fame coaches, bro. Kawhi Leonard won with Nick Nurse. People dismiss Kawhi's 2019 championship because they really, really miss, like, I think it's weird. People have like a need to have opinions about everything, right? Right? What Kawhi did in 2019 wasn't even his best playoff run. His best playoff run was like probably 2016, 2017. That Zaza injury ended what would have been his best playoff run of all time. And I fully believe that San Antonio Spurs team was in line to win a championship that year. That Zaza injury fucked everything up for Kawhi. Now, I want to show you the stats. Prepare your eyes because this shit's going to be real informative. Y'all talk about 2000 Shaq, right? 30.7 points per game, 15.4 rebounds. Cool. Played a lot of minutes, grabbed a lot of rebounds, stood his ass underneath the basket, never left underneath the basket. He was a huge human being. Cool. Those are the rebounds, right? 3.1 assists, 55.6% true shooting percentage. That's barely better than Scotty Barnes, bro. That's barely better than Scotty Barnes was this year. That's RJ Barrett. Pascal Siakam is the first option in Toronto. That's what your true shooting percentage is. That's what you want me to respect as the greatest peak of all time? Get the fuck out of here. Those are the playoffs only, in fairness. Shot horribly from the line. 3 stocks per game, 8.1 box plus minus. 8.1 box plus minus. That's pretty much Tyrese Halliburton right now. What are we doing here? 4.7 win shares. That's not great. That's not great. I understand the dominance and the media stuff. And oh my God, it's so unstoppable and it's so flashy and it looks so unstoppable. Yo, it is unstoppable to a sense until you foul him and then you force him into 0.8 points per possession, and it slows everything down. And you hunt him defensively because I understand he's not a defensive liability, but he's a defensive liability if he switches on to a guard. He's a very big defensive liability. He got blown by a 32-year-old Arvydas Sabonis repeatedly off the perimeter. If you stretch Shaq out, if we play Shaq's career out and he has to guard in space, he'd be played off the floor in this series. He would. Don't lie to yourself. Now, Shaq's a great player. He's a really great player. There's a reason to have him top 7 all time. What he did offensively was great. He had a great touch around the basket. He was a super underrated passer. I get all of that. I do. Shaq was awesome. But don't underrate Kawhi, man. Don't underrate Kawhi. Kawhi had more win shares in that 2019 run than Shaq did in the 2000 run. He had a higher box plus minus. He had a higher true shooting percentage. He scored almost as many points, 30.5 versus 30.7. Come on now. He had more assists. He was more efficient. I think he was a better defender, even though he didn't get as many blocks and steals and stuff. I thought he was a better defender. So it's not that far. And he had way less help. I mean, that's not fair to say. Because I'm often saying, on the one hand, I'm saying like, hey, he didn't have a co-star like Kobe. Let's put it that way. When we forget things based on how things end up, right? We don't remember Imani Bates is a better prospect than Victor Wembanyama. You don't remember that. You don't remember that because you don't write shit down. I remember that. I remember 5 years ago, 4 years ago, Imani Bates is the best prospect we've had since LeBron. He's a better prospect than Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, I do. Nolan Bambury saying, you're also talking about a wing player compared to a center. They're also tremendously different players and archetypes. I get you. But in the end of the day, basketball is a very simple sport in which space is the most important thing. I believe that Shaq had a lot of gravity. He would force collapses. He would make defenses panic. He would put defenses in foul trouble. He would pretty much like his impact on the game cannot be understated. Other teams had to pretty much, keep like 2 players on their roster specifically to, guard him. And guard him, I say loosely because there was no guarding him. He was unstoppable. However, he was unstoppable on 2s. And as we know, 3s are more valuable than 2s. And Kawhi is just like a way better 3-point shooter. Obviously, he's a 3-point shooter. He's also an assassin from the mid-range. Kawhi's a 3-level scorer. I believe that the scoring is almost even. That's the crazy part. That's how unstoppable I think Kawhi is. You can't stop Kawhi one-on-one anyways. You can't stop Shaq one-on-one. Cool. You can't stop KD one-on-one. You can't stop Jordan one-on-one. You can't stop Kobe one-on-one. Great. You can't stop these guys one-on-one. You just can't. You can't. Okay? I don't think you can stop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right now one-on-one if you want my honest opinion. But you cannot stop Kawhi Leonard one-on-one. Kawhi Leonard hit possibly the best game winner I've seen live in my life over Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid with the game on the line. I'm sorry, like that level of clutch performance over 2 of the best defenders in the league at the time while falling away, that's some of the most insane shot making I've ever seen. You got to think about, like, again, what Shaq does is very simple. It's very simple. It's just like what Kareem did. It's for the idiots to understand. It's no offense to you if you're huge, Shaq's the greatest player of all time, caper out there. That's fine. That's you. I don't think that he was the greatest player. I think he could have been the greatest player if he had taken his body seriously, if he'd taken conditioning seriously, if he had taken defense more seriously, if he'd taken his free throw shooting more seriously, if he had taken his off-season prep more seriously. Yes, I do believe that Shaq had the physical profile to be the greatest player of all time. He was so athletic and so physical and then so smart later in his career. It's just a shame that those 2 things never really coincided. No. I don't think he peaked higher than Kawhi Leonard. Now, I also think they're split by like this much. This is the gap between Kawhi and Shaq in terms of their peak. Why do I bring it up? If it's that close, why even bring it up? Why get cooked online? Why become a viral reel? Because I want people to talk about it. And today on the panel, they spent another 20 minutes talking about it, which is great. Got some good insight. And hopefully the next time Kawhi Leonard comes up in a conversation relative to his contemporaries, there will be a greater respect for what Kawhi has done due to this take. I don't want to win every battle. I want to win the war. My war is that I think Chris Bosh is overrated. So I bring up the fact that he scored 12.9 points per game across 2 years in their 2 championship runs. And I bring up Mikey Moore shutting him down. And I say that he's closer to Nick Claxton than he is to Anthony Davis. And the internet cooks me. My goal is to bring Arvydas Sabonis into the modern day lexicon of basketball fandom. I want people to research this guy. I want people to know how great he was because my father, lulled me to sleep with tales of Arvydas' greatness. And I would watch these VHS tapes and shit of how good he was. And I want people to know because this guy was truly great. He was great and he was stopped by the USSR, but he was great. And even when he got to the NBA, he was fantastic. The analytics prove it. The stats prove it. The eye test proves that he was amazing. I want people to register him as the top 15 to 25 player of all time. People don't. People never will because they don't recognize his European contributions. That's fine. I just want that name to be popular. The fact that reel of me putting him in my top, 15 players went viral on TikTok and I got cooked for it. You think I read those comments. I don't. I read 2 or 3. I laugh. I move on with my day. One of the greatest things, and I will say this, and this is another teaser to the episode. I want to show you guys something. Hold on one sec. Can I show you guys something? Okay. So this is the episode. I haven't edited it yet, but this is just a teaser of it. We're recording. And we're here with this super bright neuroscientist, and we're not going to have a stuffy academic discussion. Instead, what we're going to do is
I feel like
if I had slept better last night, I would have gotten this done. I would have gotten this down on the first try. But because I did not sleep, and this is why it needs to be edited because it needed to be restarted and done 3 times. But in that little interview with, the little teaser that we did here, she brought up these 3 questions that I alluded to earlier. And one of the questions was bringing up this moment from my basketball career. Ironically, she knew about it, where I turned the ball over really late and it fell off my foot. And there was this girl in the crowd, Serena, who I just really liked this girl. And I felt so embarrassed in that moment. She said, "How do you feel about that moment now?" And I said, "I laugh about it. I laugh about it, you know?" And it brought me back to Shai when he was asked about Tyrese Halliburton's game winner. And then he was forced to reflect on Aaron Gordon's game winner. And he smiled both times. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, it's really, really important to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes. It's really important to have sort of that calm in your nervous system to say, this thing that's happening right now, this is not that serious. If people are cooking you online for a take that you made because, you know, it's something they don't agree with, that's really their problem. I don't spend a lot of time online calling people idiots and being like, "You're stupid because you think this." And if ever I do that multiple times in a day, I know that there's something very, very wrong happening in my life that I need to address right away. I think a lot of us have like these fears. I don't know if this makes sense. Like, I think a lot of us have like this, like, what if I ask her out and she says no? Or what if I can't make rent next month? Or, you know, what if this person that, you know, I'm afraid to disappoint finds out that I've disappointed them? And I think that what has been very helpful for me is just to out loud say to that thing that is very intimidating in that moment, you are not a lion. You're not a lion. And I know that sounds like kooky and crazy to say at 1 a.m., but it's true because our brains have a sort of weird aversion to things that are scary and intimidating. And typically it's because they're dangerous. And we're conditioned, you know, in the age of social media to believe that online ridicule of our opinions is dangerous. And it's not. It's not. It's not real. It doesn't matter. And it's not a lion because your ancestors, when they felt that way, it's because there was a predator on, you know? So like that fear of being judged in a social setting. Like, you know, to think back to a time where you were at a party and you cracked a joke and no one laughed. You're like, "Oh, oh no, everyone now thinks I'm not funny." Well, if you think that, then they probably definitely think that you're not funny. It's very important. So I think that one of the greatest hacks in life that I've found is just to be comfortable with being wrong and to be okay with it. And so I do not mind saying whatever's on my mind all the time, right? Cubone said, sorry, off topic. Do you have a letterbox account? I do not. I am a filmmaker who runs a film festival, and I do not have a letterbox account because I've never really thought very much about why anyone would pay attention to my views on cinema or film. I'm sure people would. I'm sure that, you know, there's some part of me that just doesn't think that I want to do that. But yeah, people should read, listen to The Power of Now and The Practicing the Power of Now. I'll take your word for it. I haven't read those books. Yeah, man. I don't know. Like, social ridicule feels scary in that moment, right? So when you're on the panel and, you know, everyone's like, Kawhi Leonard over Shaq. Yeah. Nick Claxton's closer to, you know, Chris Bosh and Anthony Davis. Arvita Sabonis over so-and-so. Yeah. All those things. All those things. Because I want to move the conversation in the right direction. When I said that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 5 months ago, I said Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having one of the greatest guard seasons of all time. And what he's doing right now is rivaled only by Kobe and Curry. And that I thought he was actually better than 2017 Curry. I think a lot of people lost their fucking minds. They were like, I can't believe he just said that. He's so crazy. He's so stupid. And you read all those comments, man. You read those comments and you laugh. This is people like, put down the crack pipe. You're on cocaine. You're on drugs. You're a fucking idiot. You're this. You're that. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just laughing because you think those comments are getting to me. They're not. The only way they get to me is I don't know who I am, but I do. So when Catherine asked me about that instance where I dribbled the ball off my foot, I remembered 16-year-old Rob and how humiliated he was in that moment. Bro, I felt like the earth could have fallen from underneath me. Like I was so embarrassed. Not only let my team down, I probably thought like, damn, I'm such an idiot, you know? It reminded me of every time I'd lost the ball. I wasn't the greatest ball handler, so just it kind of reinforced like, oh, why did I do that? I should have worked my ball handling more. You know, there's a lot of what ifism. There's a lot of, stupidity, in that moment, like toxicity. You start to feel like, man, like I hope my teammates don't hate me. I hope this girl that I'm trying to impress, obviously, 16-year-old insecure kid wanting to impress the girl. I hope she would still talk to me. You're thinking all these things and you drive yourself crazy and you're thinking about it for an entire week. And when you realize as you get older is those moments don't matter because 6 months from there, I can give a shit less. The game didn't matter. And, next play, how quickly do you move on to the next play? It's a very important predictor of success. So I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has that. I think that most successful people have that. And I hope for the Indiana Pacers' sake, after this game, that they have that. Because it will be very important for them to not get bogged down by any, online chatter of like, oh, they choked, they missed their window to the championship, because beliefs have a very strange way of becoming reality. And if you start to believe that you missed your option, or worse, if you believe that the refs screwed you out of your only opportunity to win a championship and they robbed you of a game, I mean, man, you can really drive yourself crazy, right? Currently, Victor Wembanyama is doing Shaolin monk training in China. And I just thought, wow, what a smart dude. Smart dude, man. I hope Scotty Barnes does it someday. I don't know if he ever will. He's roller skating right now, but it'd be very smart to do that. Monks are incredible at silencing the noise. They're incredible at being able to hone in on the main thing, and the main thing is the main thing. Kobe Bryant. Didn't Kobe Bryant do the same thing? I don't actually know if Kobe Bryant did Shaolin monk training, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. He absolutely had that. Kobe had a lot of interviews in which he talked about why he doesn't really care what other people think about him and how that extends even to his teammates. And I just think that the word that I would like to leave you with tonight is unfuckwithable. I didn't invent it. It comes from a Mind Valley episode that I listened to 3-4 years ago, but it just stuck with me. And the word is unfuckwithable. Do everything in your power that your peace and your self-esteem and your work ethic is unfuckwithable. Don't let things derail you on a day-to-day basis. Do not let online chatter and critics and trolls and stuff derail you. I've been battling it my whole life, trying to filter out the noise. And I tell you, the closer and closer I get to it, the better my life becomes. Is very important. Phil Jackson really helped Kobe become more mindful. Mindfulness training is very important. I very much suggest that you guys, even to those people who have maybe an aversion or maybe a bias towards it, meditation is so important. We don't spend many hours of the day free of distractions. Do you know that there is actual proof that simply keeping your phone on the table in front of you, not even on, not ringing, vibrate, whatever, just the fact that it's in your vicinity can make you less productive? Why? It's occupying your mind. It's this thing. It's like this phone, bro, this phone is everything. It's my alarm clock. It's my calculator. It's my apps. It's my email. It's my planner. It's my, social media. And it is fighting to be my life if I let it. It's my feedback loop. When I want to feel bad about myself, check the phone. When I want to feel good about myself, check my phone. To the people who have online porn addictions and gambling addictions, that's also on your phone. This thing is competing for your life. It's pretty much competing for everything that's good in you. Put it down, put it away for, 6 hours a day. Go out, get some sunlight. It's really good, man. Nolan, with a great comment here, said, it's amazing how technology can keep you so connected and at the same time trap you from the outside world. Yeah, it's basically a trick on your brain. It's teaching you to get the thing that you most crave, which is dopamine, very easily. Traditionally, you had to do good things to get dopamine. You had to study for a test and then get an A. There was a process. Your brain becomes trained into going through a process to achieve this thing that you so crave. It's a motivation. I think in the episode that we did with Catherine, which was great, she talked about decision fatigue. Some people wonder why I wear the same hat and cycle through the same 4 hoodies every single day. I wear a different shirt every single day. My shirt today is blue. Some days it's red. Some days it's black. Some days it's white. Whatever. I don't even own a red shirt. My bad. I don't know why I said red. People wonder why I do that. People have wondered for years, why do I have the same headphones in the same location with the same 4 hoodies and the same hat? A lot of people have wondered that. Is it because he's too poor to afford another hat? Don't make me laugh. That's definitely not it. It's because I've never had to make a decision about what hat I want to wear for the last 3.5 years. And I wear that very proudly. Very proudly. How do you know Tyrese Halliburton's girl was talking trash in the arena? Well, I have a friend who was there, number one. And number two, you can actually hear her several times. The mics are very, very close to the baseline. And she was sitting courtside. So you can see her getting up and she's being very animated. They showed her on camera a couple times. And you can hear her very loudly. If you have your TV volume up, the mics picked her up a lot. And she's like screaming at the refs and she's up. She's animated. I don't know if she's drunk. I have no idea. But anyways, I guess I wanted to have... Oh man, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle emphasizes on living in the present moment. I fully agree, man. To the 166 of you who are here at 116 for Basketball Takes, I give you a final sort of life take, which is that I wish I had a more, planned way to say this. I don't know why this conversation has just kind of gone down this direction. Can I agree with you? She is annoying. Bro, you are free to do as you wish. But yes, I find her hella annoying. And I think she's found the perfect partner for herself because as much as I respect Tyrese Halliburton as a basketball player, I do find him hella annoying as well. John Barati has some great articles about decision fatigue. Yo, I just fully agree. On a day-to-day basis, I think you need to identify what's important to you. Whatever it is, I really don't care. It could be your family, it could be your spouse, your career, a mission. It really doesn't matter. I think sometimes you just have to ask yourself the right questions. Whatever that thing is, y'all heard that phrase, keep the main thing the main thing. You got to keep the main thing, right? You got to keep your eye on the prize. You can't get distracted. You can't be going all over the place. The main thing is the main thing. All the rest of it is just a process to get to the main thing. And I'm not saying don't smell the flowers on the way and whatever. When I listen to a player like Carter Bryant, for him, it's very obvious that the main thing is the main thing. He's not distracted. He's not moved by 6.5 points per game. He's not moved by a bad game or a bad performance or getting cooked on defense. He's not moved by that. Most successful people aren't, because most successful people have done the work to identify that this is the main thing. I'm sure that a lot of people feel like it's pretty random. Like, who cares if I spend 2-3 minutes deciding what I want to buy or what I want to make today or whatever. Like, look, man, we all have a certain need basis, like needs in our lives. We have a need for fulfillment. We have a need for, we have basic needs. Obviously, we have a need for food, shelter, companionship, love, social belonging. We have those needs. But we also have needs that go beyond like basic necessities, maybe want needs. And those are needs for novelty. We have needs for stimulation, dopamine, etc. The point here is that your brain tends to get more and more of what it's wired to receive in the manner that it is wired to receive it. And so this phone that you have, it's almost like tricking your brain into thinking that you have friends that you don't really have. It's making you feel like you have accomplished things that you haven't actually accomplished. I'll give you an example. Go and post right now on your Facebook, lost 20 pounds, hashtag gym life, right? And see how many likes you get. See how many congrats you get. See how many, oh my God, you go girls, do you get? You get a lot. That's feedback. That's very important for you. That's dopamine, also very important for you. Now, imagine if you do this and you didn't actually lose the 20 pounds, you didn't have to work for it. Well, now you've gotten it very easily. So now the prospect of actually losing the weight is completely wiped from your brain. There's no point in losing the weight. You need to get it as easily as you got that validation. You see what I mean? That's the whole point, right? Like, it used to take real work to make a difference in this world. I've met a lot of people in my life who've actually made a difference. They've had to put their necks out. They've had to put dollars up. They've had to put their life on the line to make a difference. Rob Stewart made a difference in this world. He risked his life many times to make a difference in this world, to save the sharks, to make his documentaries. 3 documentaries through his very short life. A life, by the way, I'm older today than Rob was when he died. That's a very shocking thought to me when I think about it. But Rob actually wasn't a social media addict. He would take weeks and weeks to respond to any message that you sent him. And that's because he was focused on the main thing. And his kick, like what he got a kick from, was actually completing tasks. But the tasks that he set out for himself were extremely hard and exceedingly long-term tasks. And so he didn't get decision fatigue, and he didn't get this dopamine sort of, hijack of his mind, because he didn't allow technology. The technology kind of hijacks your life in a way because it kind of introduces itself as a means of making things easier for you, when it really, in reality, makes things very hard for you in the long term. Consider ChatGPT, right? You don't have to learn how to write. You don't have to learn how to think for yourself. You don't have to learn how to, eloquently frame your words, because look, here's ChatGPT. You can write any basic thing and say, hey, can you make this 15% more eloquent? Can you make this 20% more this and that? So that means you don't have to work for it. So, it's just like, it's making things too easy. And so now, like, you're not really in love with the process. You're just completely feedback results. You're feedback oriented on the results. And so again, the process versus the results. I'm a very process-based person, a very process-based thinker. I'm very old school that way. So to me, to kind of frame this back to, what I'm doing with PENSARE Basketball and what I'm doing on the panel, to me, there's a longer term goal here, which is to introduce people to the idea that, yes, Kawhi is a top 20 peak of all time. Yes, Shaq did have holes. Yes, I want you to talk about that. Yes, I want to be the person who's making these conversations happen. And so I think a lot of people sometimes will watch me on PC and be like, why is this guy still on? Like, why has he been on for a year and a half? And a lot of people assume it's because of rage bait. Like, maybe, people just really enjoy having somebody who says outlandish shit that, makes people very angry. But I don't think that's it. I think in a lot of ways, I'm on PC because I'm able to provoke conversations that have grander impacts beyond PC. And that's what we're all trying to do, I hope. Because I've had a long-standing beef with the media, as you know, right? I've had a lot of issues with how they've covered Scotty, and how they've covered Kawhi, and how they've covered Michael, and how they've covered a lot of players, a lot of my favorite players, Vince, right? The framing element of this is very important. How are we having one of the best finals in NBA history and the ratings are so quote unquote low? And everyone's complaining about Shai being a foul baiter and Tyrese Halliburton being this way. And it's like, maybe enough people didn't do the work to promote these people as legitimate stars. Maybe 5 months ago, me comparing him to Kobe makes at least 20 to 30% of people who listen to us more interested in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, either because they love Kobe and they want to hate watch him, or because they're very intrigued by the prospect of a player who scores in similar ways to a player that they grew up idolizing. I don't know. My point is, the league has not done a fantastic job, or a good job, or a great job of promoting the next wave of stars. Stars like Anthony Edwards, I think they've done okay with. Wemby, I think they've done okay with. But Paolo, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, I don't think they've done a good enough job. Evan Mobley, Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I feel like these guys have been somewhat suppressed. And I think that's very, very important to realize that as small markets continue to emerge, there are no small markets anymore. OKC is a global market. Everyone can access these games across America. This is not limited. This is very dated thinking, Nielsen boxes and all that stuff. I remember having a conversation with Jack Armstrong in 2007 about Nielsen boxes, and we were laughing about it. This is not something that needs to be a thing anymore. You know, Shaq ironically said, small market, big market. Like when I was coming up in 98, like I had to leave Orlando. It wasn't a big market to go to LA. Today, there are no small markets. And I fully agree with him. It's just an antiquated way of looking at things. Yeah, of course, if New York and LA are in the finals, there will be more views because those states will be more interested. But why are people in those states not interested in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton? Is this series between two excellently coached teams, two very good defensive teams, two very interesting stars, maybe underrated teams, understated teams? Is this really exposing the real hoop lovers from the pretenders? Is this showing you who really gives a shit about this sport and who just pretends to give a shit about this sport? Is this showing you who really gets the sport versus who doesn't really give a fuck about the sport beyond just talking at the tom-toms? I swear to God, there are people who will only watch a game. I'm not even kidding. Like, we're talking like they'll watch Wimbledon, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, provided it's trending. It's trending. If everyone's going to know about it, I have to know about it. Those people are sheep. Unfortunately, those people still pay ad revenue and those people still count, but they're sheep. This series is not for the sheep. This series is for real hoop lovers and people who are obsessed with the game of basketball. I'll leave you on a final thought because I do need to get to sleep because, you know, I need to message all our co-panelists tomorrow for our draft episode, and it's going to be fire. It's hard to watch this series with Lou Dort and Alex Caruso and Kaysen Wallace and even Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, you know, those guys. It's hard to watch the value in this series of off-ball wings and positional versatility and defense. I'll throw Obi Toppin in there too, for fuck's sake. He's not a good defender, but man, he's pretty versatile. It's hard to watch all of these players and not understand the value of Colin Murray-Boyles, Carter Bryant, Noah Senge. Everyone is obsessed with like, we got to get a center. We got to get a center. Yo, chill on that. I love Kaman Malawach. Y'all know I was talking about him a year ago. Interviewed his trainer. Love him. But don't operate under this very 1960s to 1990s mentality of like, you got to go for the 7-footer. Bro, name the 7-footers in this series. There's like 2 of them. And they're amazing. But like, for the most part, this series is being determined by whose wings are better, right? And the defense that Kaysen Wallace and Caruso and these guys are able to play, and I'm not just talking about this series, Caruso being able to guard in front, Nikola Jokic, it's really hard to imagine a world in which you pass on guys like Carter Bryant, Cedric Howard, as I mentioned, Noah Senge, guys like this, Colin Murray-Boyles, who can do some of this stuff defensively when this is where the league is going. Now, I think that's very, very important, right? Nolan said, if someone doesn't create the conversation will never be had and the progress cannot be made. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. And I think, you know, sometimes you just need to hold it. I think a lot of people would think a lot of different things if they could just hold it, right? Kobe Bryant, best player of all time. Let's sit with it for a second. Let's see how it feels. Okay. Kobe Bryant, not a top 10 player of all time. Let's sit with that. Let's see how it feels. People are not willing to sit with shit and sit and see how it feels. Today I was arguing with not sporting logically, math and numbers or whatever, one of the accounts that's devoted to analytics about Scotty Barnes potentially being the 6th best player from the 2001 draft. I was like, bro, are you kidding me right now? 6th best player, put him behind Austin Reeves and Alperen Şengün. Like, I'm like, you got to be kidding. So again, like, I'm all over the place right now. But this finals is good hope for the small market teams. But why? I mean, I get it, but wasn't Denver? I mean, Denver's not as small market. Wasn't Milwaukee hope for small market teams? Phoenix is a pretty big market, unironically. Miami's a pretty big market. Boston's a pretty decent market. I don't know. Like, wasn't Utah in the finals in 97 and 98 a hope for small market teams? Or was it? I think people talk about this stuff too much. And there's this thing that they say, like, whatever you focus on amplifies. If you only think about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as a grifter, you're just going to focus on all the grifting. He barely got to the line today. And every time he gets to the line, it's like, boo! I've never heard this before. I've never seen anything like this before. It's ridiculous. He's really good at it. They're not just gifting him these calls. Like, you're reaching on his arm. He's being held off the ball. It's insane. Like, obviously, I understand that sometimes it is grifting, but he is far from the worst at doing this. And everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing it. Halliburton does it very, often as well. So it's very interesting that we say this and we think about it, and so we focus on it. What do you think happened with the Fred VanVleet stuff? I started talking a lot about how he doesn't really pass the football to Scotty Barnes. Y'all honed in on it. You started noticing it, and you're like, this guy might be onto something, because I told you to look for it too, right? But if you weren't looking for it, you're not even going to notice it. You can be like, oh, Fred and Scotty, those are great. Those are great buddies. Give me W if you caught Scotty Barnes' reaction to hearing from, I think it was ChatGPT or Google Gemini. Yeah, it was Gemini, the AI thing for Google, that Fred VanVleet was Scotty Barnes's mentor. He was just like, what? His face says it all, man. Mike P said Scotty's smirk was hilarious. Yeah, he, like, his entire face curled up. Like, Scotty doesn't lie. That's very interesting. Also, Thursday happened, Friday happened, and I did not go to a Kendrick Lamar concert, so that's interesting. I was thinking about it. I was very much thinking about it. Tickets were not that expensive at all. I was thinking about it. Anyways, I gotta get to sleep. I apologize in advance if this live was a little bit disorganized. I've had a very long day. I know when people say, like, I've had a long day, it's like, shut the fuck up, motherfucker. Like, every single day is exactly the same length. But I woke up at 8 and I was thinking I wanted to do this live tomorrow because I did game 3 after, but I was like, no, I got to talk my shit, because, man, I was prepared to eat some serious crow after this game. So I hope that this was a decent live, even though it kind of bumped around 500 topics. And I can't wait to edit these next 3 videos for you guys. That draft video is going to be dope. I was thinking, like, do I want to do it as live? Do I not want to do it as live? I would love to do it as live, because then we can answer questions as well. But in the context of 7 people being up there doing a mock draft, I'm not really sure we're going to have a chance to answer questions. So it almost doesn't make sense to do it as a live, and it makes a lot more sense to do it as a video. That will be more like evergreen content, almost like, it's almost like everybody's solidifying their takes. And yeah, I think it'd be really cool. Nice one said, my day was whack as fuck. I'm quitting this whack job. If this was a little bit earlier in the live, I would ask you what is wrong with your whack job, but maybe you know better than I, of course. Said, another insightful and thought-provoking live from Penn. Appreciate the wisdom, very helpful and inspirational. Thank you, Nolan, as always, and thanks for the support to all of you guys. Big win, OKC. Again, to update y'all on my predictions, OKC in 6. So OKC wins 3 straight. It's going to be very hard. I hope this team is up for it. I'm certainly prepared. I'm prepared for anything. This series has been wild. I mean, seriously, like, game 1, you're like, there's no way OKC can lose. Boom, they lose. Game 2, you're like, oh, they're going to be hungover. Boom, they win. Game 3, you're like, okay, OKC is going to come out and stomp them, and they lose. And then game 4, you're like, oh man, like they haven't hit a single three in like what feels like 500 minutes right now. They're definitely going to lose this game, and then they win. So it's very unpredictable, and I think unpredictable things make for very interesting watches. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this series, and I'm assuming the further the series goes, the more people are going to get interested in it, because again, blowouts are really bad for ratings, and this series is weirdly close. I think a lot of people walking into the series, myself included, were like, Indiana has no chance in this series. And I think that might have turned some people away as well, because they're like, I don't want to watch something that's already predetermined and concluded. If the refs are just going to give Shai the games or whatever. But I think now that it's a 2-2 series, I think a lot of people are going to lock in, and hopefully those numbers for the NBA are going to go up and up over the next 2 to 3 games. We'll see. All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Enjoy your night. Peace.